I want to start by saying that this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to admit to anyone, let alone to someone I truly cared about. I've been wrestling with these words for quite some time, and the reason I'm putting them forward now is that I can no longer keep them locked away. I'm aware that once I share this truth, there may be no going back. It's not because I don't value you, and it's not because I dismiss all the beautiful moments we had or the connection we shared. Rather, it's because honesty has become more important to me than preserving an illusion that might provide temporary comfort. You deserve the truth, and it's about time you had it. For weeks, maybe even months, I tried to convince myself that the primary reason I left was due to misunderstandings between us. I tried to believe that we had irreconcilable differences, that we argued too much, or that we just weren't clicking on some basic level. I told myself stories about how the chemistry had fizzled, or that the timing wasn't right, or that it was just one of those unfortunate cases where two wonderful people couldn't make it work. But deep down, I knew these were all half-truths or excuses. They were easier to say than the actual reason. They allowed me to avoid confronting what I'm about to tell you now. And in that avoidance, I thought I was sparing your feelings. But in reality, I was just postponing the pain, hoping maybe I could change how I felt if I didn't give voice to it. The truth is, I didn't walk away because of any specific flaw in our relationship. I didn't leave because you did something horrible, or because we suddenly lacked communication, or even because we couldn't find common ground on important matters. The reasons I gave you, the small frictions or little disagreements, were not at the core of my decision. Those were normal relationship hurdles that any couple could have worked through if both parties truly wanted to. Instead, the real reason I chose to leave is far more difficult to talk about. I saw a future that looked more secure and more financially stable with someone else. I recognize how painful that might be to hear, and believe me, it's painful to say. Financial security, for better or worse, played a significant role in my choice. It's not that I ever wanted to judge our relationship purely on material terms. I'm not proud of admitting that money factored so heavily into something as profoundly personal as love and commitment. Yet, I can't deny that it was a crucial element that weighed on my mind daily. There came a moment when I felt I had to think about my future, my sense of stability, and the kind of life I hoped to build. When I compared what was on the table, what you and I had versus what someone else could offer, I realized I gravitated toward a situation that seemed more solid in the long term. Please understand, I am not saying our relationship was worthless or empty. On the contrary, many aspects of being with you were truly meaningful. We laughed together, cared for each other, and made wonderful memories. Yet, in the background, my anxiety about the future loomed larger than I'd ever admit. I often found myself staying awake at night, wondering if love was enough when it came to envisioning a sustainable life for the years to come. Would we be able to support each other financially and emotionally when challenges inevitably arose? Would we be constantly juggling debts, obligations, or uncertain prospects? My mind fixated on these questions, and I grew increasingly concerned. I don't want to downplay the fact that this might sound selfish. It probably is selfish. Choosing financial security can come across as cold-hearted, especially when set against the deep emotional bonds we once shared. But I also believe in being real about the complexities of life. Practical matters do matter in the long run, though they're not usually something people want to openly acknowledge as a deciding factor in love. Yet, it would be disingenuous of me to say it's all about feelings when I know that practical considerations, like where we live, how stable our jobs are, whether we can plan for a family or retirement, deeply influence a relationship's long-term success. Despite the clarity I have now, making this decision wasn't easy. It wasn't as if I woke up one morning and decided, I'm going to leave this person because someone else makes more money or has a better future plan. Instead, it was a gradual process, one that involved a lot of internal struggle. There were nights I cried, feeling like a terrible person for wanting more than what we already had. I knew I was risking hurting someone who had shown me kindness, support, and genuine affection. But I also knew I couldn't keep living with the anxiety of the unknown. That voice inside telling me to focus on what my life would look like in 10, 15, or 20 years. Well, it became impossible to silence. I also want to stress that the individual I've decided to move forward with is not some flashy, superficial figure who swooped in and dazzled me with wealth. That's not at all what I'm trying to convey. Rather, they presented a scenario where our combined resources, goals, and plans seemed to align in a way that made me feel a sense of peace and confidence. It's not just about money for its own sake. It's about the overall sense of security, knowing that if life throws challenges at us, we can navigate them together without constantly being on the brink of financial ruin or without feeling the pressure of uncertain futures. Nevertheless, acknowledging that finances played such a pivotal role doesn't erase the sense of guilt I carry. I know that no matter how delicately I phrase it, the idea of leaving a relationship for someone else, particularly someone who can provide more, will inevitably sting. I hate that it might cause you to question your own worth, to think that somehow you weren't enough. Please remember that your worth is not measured by how much money you earn or how many assets you have. You are a valuable, kind-hearted person, and you deserve happiness, respect, and love that isn't predicated on material concerns. It's just that my personal insecurities, my fears, and my vision for my future led me to a different path, one where I felt more stable. I can imagine how this might sound, that I cast aside our love just because of worldly pursuits. That's not the entire story, but I can't deny that it forms part of it. It's important to me that you know I struggled mightily with the notion that I might be letting someone down who truly cared for me and whom I cared for deeply. I questioned my own moral compass, feeling like I was betraying the very foundation of love by letting practical considerations carry so much weight. But I arrived at a point where I understood that continuing in a relationship filled with my unspoken worries would be unfair to both of us. If my heart and mind weren't fully committed, if I was always gazing elsewhere thinking, could my future be better if I were with that person instead? Well, then neither of us deserved to live under that cloud of uncertainty. In sharing all this, I want to be absolutely clear. You did nothing wrong. You were supportive, attentive, and loving. You were patient with me, even during those times when I grew distant or evasive. You tried to communicate, to get me to open up, and to find ways for us to build a harmonious life together. I know how deeply you invested yourself in what we had. Unfortunately, my internal fears and priorities drowned out any reassurance you tried to give me. Over time, I reached a point where I could no longer pretend that something else, some argument or misunderstanding, was the cause. I'm truly sorry for causing you any pain. The last thing I wanted was to hurt you, which is why I avoided admitting the real reason for so long. I told myself that by hiding the truth, I was protecting you from the harshness of my reality. But the actual effect of withholding honesty is simply prolonging the inevitable. And so, here we are. In many ways, I wish I could have softened the blow by offering a more palatable explanation, something that felt more mutual or less pointed. But I've come to realize that giving you anything less than the whole truth only prolongs your healing process. You deserve closure. You deserve the unvarnished truth so that you can understand, in full, why I made the choice I made. I don't expect forgiveness, nor do I expect understanding right away. Emotions are complicated, and this admission may seem too stark, perhaps even cruel. Time is the only real balm that can soothe this kind of heartbreak. If, after you've processed everything, you decide you never want to speak to me again, I will respect your decision wholeheartedly. I acknowledge that I have lost a certain right to ask for your compassion, or even your friendship. But I do hope that one day you'll be able to look at the bigger picture and see that I was guided by concerns that I couldn't shake off, and that I chose to be transparent in the end, rather than keep you in a haze of partial truths. Ultimately, I want you to know that our shared memories are not tainted by my decision. I still cherish them for what they were: genuine moments of connection, warmth, and affection. I hope you can eventually find your own path to a future that feels secure, emotionally, spiritually, and yes, financially too, because everyone deserves that sense of stability. My choice to seek that elsewhere doesn't negate who you are or what you brought into my life. I'm sorry if, by leaving for these reasons, I've made you doubt yourself or the bond we had. Thank you for taking the time to read through this. It's a lot to absorb, and I know that each line may weigh heavily on your heart. Whatever your reaction, please know that this was not a decision made on a whim, nor was it born of malice. I made the choice because I felt I couldn't see a clear path forward that would bring both of us lasting peace. If anything, I hope this confession helps you see that sometimes people's motives are more complicated than just falling in or out of love. Practical considerations, fears, and life circumstances can entwine with emotions in ways that are difficult to untangle. If there's one final thing I'd like to leave you with, it's this: be gentle with yourself. None of this was your fault. Though it might sting right now, I have faith you'll find the kind of love and relationship that meets not only the emotional needs you rightly crave, but also the practical needs that support a stable future. My wish for you is that one day you'll look back on all of this with acceptance and peace. In time, I hope you can heal, grow, and find someone whose hopes and dreams match yours more seamlessly than mine ever did. I'm not proud of having hurt you, but I had to be honest. I can only hope that in time, my confession will bring both of us a clearer understanding of where we stand and what we need. You deserve no less than the truth, painful as it might be. I'm truly sorry, and I do wish you the very best as you move forward with your life.